Hey everyone, it's Darren Kaplan again, and you're watching Can Your Banker Do This? I'm sitting here with Arthur Ettinger, the president of Sandlot Sports Group. Here we go, talking about sports and baseball, my favorite topic here. Usually we talk about mortgages and finance and real estate, and here we go. So Arthur is an agent, right, for a few guys that are playing with some local teams here. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Mets or the Yankees. Those are some pretty big local teams that we have. I get into work every morning, and what I do is I turn on MLB. And I watch it from 7 in the morning to 8 at night. And right now I'm kind of lost because we have no sports, but we have the Korean baseball, which is kind of weird. And there's nobody in the stands, but there's the talk that we never really discussed about how the government changed the way that minor league baseball players can write off their expenses, right? So this was the first year, the first spring that they were going to go through this whole new transition. And also we lost a lot of minor league teams as well. So like the whole outlook of baseball itself, between the scandal with the Astros and the Boston Red Sox being cheaters. Yes, they cheated us. We literally lost. As a Yankee fan, man, I was in a hole for so long, and then the whole scandal came out and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was just like, oh my God, redemption, this is it. And then, COVID-19 came out. So I think this is
it's funny. I don't mean to interrupt you,
No.
but when this whole thing happened about 3 months ago, I joked, a lot of us didn't know what to make of this. And I joked that the Houston Astros had hired the best PR agency, because no one talks about the Houston Astros unless you live in New York. Everything has been shifted away from that.
Yeah.
And so, it's all facetious, but it's interesting how things have a way of happening.
But I totally, I felt it in my heart. Like, oh my God, we were just let down. We work so hard. We get there. We wait all year. It's a lot of baseball all year round. I went to playoff games. I'm sitting in the stands and I'm just like, the Yankees just don't look the way they usually do, and it's because they were getting cheated. I mean, straight up. I mean, there's nothing more than that. Listen, whether the next pitch is coming, 1 pitch, 10 pitch, 100 pitches, it doesn't matter, man. It only takes that one at-bat to turn around the whole game. And I played baseball my entire life, up until, I was 20 or 19. But, one thing you said before, though, about how you're an attorney and you're in law school, right? And you wanted the dreams and hopes to be a sports agent. That's an attorney's dream, right? So I had the same dream as a baseball player. I wanted to be a pro baseball player, right? And I never knew that the avenue of becoming an attorney, who my family always said, Darren, you should become an attorney, could get to that point. You could be a sports agent by doing that. So my passion for baseball could continue through my education. And I think that's an important point that you made. Not everybody knows that. So you don't necessarily have to be the Ken Griffey Jr., the Derek Jeters.
On the business side, the agents, most of them have gone to law school, or a lot of them have. They may not have a practice, because at some point you get to the point where you have to decide how much. There's a lot of time that is devoted to your ball players. So
yeah.
Having a legal practice at the same time as a full-time sports agency, that's tough to juggle. But to your point, a lot of agents are exactly what you just described. They are frustrated athletes who
Right.
Made a run, maybe had some time in the show but didn't quite make it, and then went to law school. And so they have that that training, that background, how to approach things.
Right.
Because that's invaluable. Even if you've never stepped foot in the courtroom, the nice thing about my background as a family law guy, almost all these guys are having kids, they're baby mamas, they're prenup, they need prenups. I'm able to do that without getting on the phone and calling somebody else. They need those kind of advisors,
Right.
They're at a bar, next thing you know, they're being sued. There's certain things you can do with that legal background, and a lot of the agents have that.
this year was a weird year, right? So obviously a lot of these high school kids, right, and even college kids, right, they're going to get overlooked. They're good. They can throw hard. They can hit the ball, but they're going to get overlooked because they didn't finish out that senior year in high school. And when I was a senior in high school, it was very important to me that I played baseball so that I can get seen for that following fall and figure out where I'm going to go to school. I wasn't looking to get drafted. I wasn't that good, but I had the potential to be if I went to school, right, and got some more education on how to become a pro ball player, right? So what kind of advice can you give to those seniors and those college kids too who missed out, who are thinking about whether it's being drafted or attending the draft or getting signed up in the pros or the minors or figuring that system out? What kind of advice can you give to them? You know, besides contacting you, obviously, you know, but
Well, so the example that you give, the high school kid, you know, that's not the worst scenario. It's actually an okay scenario. What's the worst that happens? You have to go to college. You know,
correct.
the problem is the kid who's graduating from a four-year school. Some of these kids, when they don't get the money, you know, on the signing bonus at a high school, they will go to a junior college. Okay.
Right.
But there are a lot of kids who are coming out of four-year schools that are top baseball programs, the Vanderbilts, you know, you name it. That's where it's challenging. I know some kids have been told by their, you know, by their baseball coach, stay on an extra year, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we can work around it. Baseball's coming back. You know, that's my advice. They're young enough. The problem really is, just so we're clear, and what you're pointing to is the draft. They've agreed the draft is only going to be 5 rounds.
Right.
So what that
With
really,
less minor leaguers though.
right? So that means if you're not a stud, you got to have a plan B, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. If you're out of high school, no problem. Go get your education. I tell all my kids that I represent, okay. And to your point before, you know, he's not the only guy that I feel like he's part of the family. I always joke when I sign a new guy, welcome to the family. Because that's really what it is.
Right.
You break bread, they're at my house for Thanksgiving, they're at my house for the holidays. So, you know, the real issue are not those guys. Forget the first 5 rounds, because it'll change. It'll come back. Maybe not in a year from now, maybe in 2 years from now. But the guys, you know, I have a guy who is a stud. He got drafted out of the Dominican Republic for between close to $700,000
Nice.
by the Red Sox, and he got injured. You know, a lot of these guys, as you know, you're an athlete. You don't want to tell your coach or the manager that you're injured, so they play hurt, and that's a huge no-no. Agents don't want that,
Right.
because once you hide that, then they're able to. You can't cut a kid who's injured. You're not allowed to do that. It's against the rules. And so he never spoke up. His numbers were through the roof. His ERA was, you know, much higher. Kid has so much talent, such a stud, and now he's at home. And you know, the plan was to get him back on, maybe on a minor league team to
Right.
showcase his stuff, because he lost a lot of velocity. You know, there's a kid who was pitching throwing 99. He was when he was injured, he couldn't get up to 90, and he was back. We were ready. We had showcases, you know, ready to roll. I had spoken to scouts, and now the year's gone. You know,
Yeah.
so for a guy like that who's approaching 26, he's now going to be competing against kids who are 19 throwing 99.
Exactly. I'm sitting here with Arthur Ettinger. He's the president of Sandlot Sports Group. He's a sports agent. Arthur, tell everybody how they can reach you.
Info@sandlotsportsgroup.com.
Awesome.
Thank you,
And
man.
you guys are watching Can Your Banker Do This? I'm Darren Kaplan. Remember, you can always reach me at 844-772-LOAN. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/MrMortgageGuru.